I can smell it. The word whiskey came from the Gaelic words meaning water of life. After all, during Prohibition, whiskey was allowed for purchase with a doctor's prescription, of course. Today, it's among the top-selling spirit in America, with California and Texas pouring the most glasses. And more people don't want to just drink it. They also want to understand it. Bobby Finan, founder of the Whiskey Riot, joins us with barrels of fun to be had this weekend, including tastings and some education about this age-old spirit going back to around 1200 AD. Good morning.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so let's just back up a little bit. Speaking of back, let's back up a little bit and talk about how you got into this. You're the hometown Buffalo, New York, but you went to college with a path toward finance, and then something happened. You visited a craft distillery. Take us back to that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, this is back in 2011 or so. I was living in New York City, and I visited a craft distilling. New York had just changed its craft distilling laws, and I was totally enamored with watching people make whiskey, the barrels. It just seemed like, like out of a movie or something, super cool, and I fell in love with it. And I ended up moving back to Buffalo, starting a distillery, which I ran for 10 years. And while doing that, we launched our first whiskey festival up there.
Yeah, and that whiskey festival did that is because you launched your distillery, and then people just kept having questions and more questions and more questions, and then you saw people's love over whiskey, and so you thought, there's something here.
Absolutely, and I mean, these whiskey tasting events are one of the best kind of educational avenues as far as learning what you like, what you don't like, the differences between products. So you can read all day online about it, but until you taste it, it doesn't really hit home.
Yeah, you basically sold about 700 tickets in just a few days, and big brands wanted to get involved, and that's when you knew you were on to something. This is an immersive experience, and it can explore all kinds of new finds and favorites that people might have. They can learn and compare.
Absolutely. So we have our event in Houston coming up this weekend, and at that event alone, we've got about 150 different types of bourbon, rye, Scotch, Irish whiskeys, blended and single malts, flavored whiskeys. I mean, the whole gambit. So it's a fantastic opportunity to really dig in and find out what you like and what's really special about different products.
All right. Speaking of education, let's just start with, what is whiskey exactly?
Sure. That's a great question. So people always will say things like, oh, I like bourbon, but I don't like whiskey, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's a funny statement, because whiskey is just a broad category, the same way that beer is. And under beer, there's stouts and IPAs and pilsners. So whiskey is just a distilled spirit distilled from grain. So corn, wheat, rye, malted barley. And it's distilled typically around a purity level of 60%, and then often aged in barrels.
Yeah.
And when we get into like bourbons or ryes, obviously those are very popular in the United States and in Texas. Those have certain production requirements. So bourbon, for example, must age in a white oak charred barrel for a certain amount of time, and must be a certain amount of corn. That gives it kind of its sweetness. So it just depends how much time you have. I could go all day.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. A whole lot happens before that bottle makes it to a shelf and before it gets poured into a glass. Speaking of a glass, I have a glass right in front of me right now. Tell me about this first one that I'm tasting.
Sure.
The Yellowstone?
You have the Yellowstone. So Yellowstone is an awesome bourbon. Goes to all of our events. So this is out of Kentucky, and it's so it's going to be a lighter, kind of sweeter bourbon. This brand has awesome American single malts, which is the new category that's going to be on display at the event, and that's getting a lot of kind of interest right now. The federal government just announced this new category. It's one of the first new whiskey categories in the United States, and maybe 50 years or so. So this brand's really special.
You said
for that
lighter, lighter, sweeter. It is lighter, sweeter. It goes down really well. All right, tell me about the Brothers Bond straight bourbon right here.
Yeah, so for people that like whiskey and the intersection of pop culture, this is a celebrity-backed whiskey, but is really well made, sourced out of Indiana, and this represents one of the kind of phenomenons in the craft distilling world, where a lot of brands will buy from a third-party producer and then make their own blends with it. These guys do this really well. This is going to be a little punchier than that Yellowstone, but also these are both bourbons, so it's going to have that sweetness, that kind of caramel vanilla note.
I can attest to it being a little punchier than the Yellowstone. Okay, do you see the hair on my chest right now? Can you see that from the no?
Yeah, we got to send you to the barber.
All right. You mentioned earlier that just different regions and stuff. So you have local, national, and international bourbons that will be there. You know, you've got Texas, the Balcones, the Prideful Goat, national ones from Scotland, the Glenfiddich, and then from Ireland. When we show up at the Whiskey Riot, just kind of lay the groundwork for us of how it happens.
Yeah, so tasting is what it's all about. So you walk through the door, you get a tasting glass. There's actually whiskey waiting in it, so we call that our first pour sponsor. So that product is the brand Boondocks. It's their 6-year-old straight bourbon whiskey. So that literally in the glass. If you like it, you can go right to their table and learn more about that brand. But you walk through this open space, and there's different tables and exhibits, if you will, with different products on the table, and each one of those tables is staffed by either a sales representative or a brand ambassador or a business owner affiliated with those products that should be able to speak in great depth about what's unique about their products, why it's special, where you can find it. So it is, sometimes we get asked, what should you do if you're not into whiskey and want to attend? I would say, frankly, don't attend, because it's for whiskey lovers.
Yeah, and the other thing too is when you have cocktails, sometimes that's a way to ease into it. Some people say don't water it down with something else, but when you have a cocktail, it's an easy way to ease people into stuff as well. And there's like really delicious drinks. All right, this also benefits a great cause.
Yeah, so we've had a long time charitable partner. It's their event. We are the organizer and promoter of it. And that organization is called the Foundation for Hope Village. It's based right outside of Houston. It's a live-in working community for adults with intellectual disabilities. They've been around for a very long time. And it's just a really special, kind of near and dear mission for us. So we love working with them and are happy to support them.
Well, Bobby, thank you so much. And just one more question. When you told your parents, hey, that finance degree ain't happening, I'm going to have a distillery, how did that go?
Yeah, I think they almost had heart attacks, and they've since gotten over it. But that was a shocking moment in the Finan household.
Well, it worked out. So thank you very much for joining us this morning. Looking forward to the weekend.
Great. And if you want tickets, whiskeyriot.com.
Yes. All right. Again, over 150 types of whiskey will be available to taste at the Houston Whiskey Riot Festival. And for those tickets, you're going to pay less than you would for probably a bottle of whiskey, right? It takes place this Saturday, 4 to 7 p.m. at Post Houston. Tickets are still available exclusively online, including VIP access. For more information, visit greatdayhouston.com. Please drink responsibly. And so you don't have to remember where you parked, consider using rideshare.